So I thought I'd start with the most recent production of the Abbey Theatre, and produced last September for the Dublin Theatre Festival. It was the Sophocles trilogy that I kind of mashed into two long plays. So some of you, well, most of you probably know the Oedipus myth, if not Sophocles' plays. So Oedipus is the man who kills his dad and marries his ma, basically. So the scene, or the monologue I'm going to read for you, is from Oedipus to Jocasta, his wife mother, after it is revealed that she is his mother as well as his wife. Okay, so this is Oedipus speaking. So this is Oedipus to Jocasta. Now that we know, we can say that we knew. Days I'd look at you and say, yeah, that's her all right. I've married my mother, but then most men do. Why should I be any different? If I was annoyed with you, or you were in one of your black moods, missing your long dead son, and I'd look at you and then you were definitely the prophecy fulfilled or the curse or whatever, then for months I wouldn't think about it. You were just my wife and all was fine, and the kids and all of that, until some evening an expression on your face I'd catch, or a heaviness under your chin, or something so maternal like your stomach sticking out, and then I think, yes, she has to be my mother. But mostly, no, I didn't know, except when I did. And when I did, I told myself, that's stupid. No one marries their mother. Life can't be that crazy or absurd. The shower above can't be that vicious or mocking. And then sometimes I just didn't care. I mean, what does it matter? What are these laws? Where do they come from? Why can't you marry your mother or your father or your sister or brother? What's the big crime? It's all just sex. There's all sorts of theories about disease and congenital defects and insanity, but I don't think that those who marry out are particularly sane or happy either. And well, if you do marry your mother, I imagine you get away with more than if you married a stranger. She's your mother. She's bound to indulge you. And maybe you can depend on her adoration the way you can depend on nothing else, because she'll know you as an infant and at least have loved you unconditionally for those few weeks, if not after or since. I mean, you come out of her and all you're doing is going back in, innocent really, when you think about it like that. And if it's not bothering anyone, why should it be a law or illegal? Or maybe it's because your mother will get old before you and you'll have to nurse her and you mightn't want to go to bed with her anymore. And maybe when she's a very old woman, she won't want to go to bed with you, but you can lie peacefully together, holding hands, like those enormous tombs in the hills from the Golden Age. And you can maybe help her to die, which you'd probably do anyway if you were a normal son and hadn't married her in the first place. If I had a choice, if I knew you were my mother, would I have married you? Probably, as long as no one knew. Would you have married me if you knew I was your son? Probably. The attraction has never seemed perverse or excessive to me, no stranger than what any man wants from any woman in the dark. If I was asked, I'd say our life together is satisfactory, for me anyway. Good even, at times really something. Is that the way it is for others? I don't know. I've been with you so long, what we do or don't do seems what's normal, seems what everyone else does. But I don't have anyone to ask about these matters, because you see, on Cithaeron, all my life I've been waiting for the wolves to come. I know that mountain. I thought it was my own private nightmare, but now I know it was always real. Cithaeron, that no man's land, heels bound, those sounds, the streams gushing, lambs bleating, frozen, choking, feet in ribbons, smeared in shit, piss, mucus. Will she never come? What have I done? If I survive this, I'll survive anything. I'll wreak such havoc. I curse you on the shooting stars, the tearing wind howling down the mountainside. And Orione comes with his sheep, the silver bolt torn from my bleeding feet, my hunger soothed on a ewe's teat in the crook of his arm. And time races on, and I defile everything I can defile, and everyone. The thing about abandon, you never come home. not even if you fulfill the prophecy. Live out the curse and all the curses, your own and others, and the curse of the world and being here, and it's so short, and the bit of whatever thing there's supposed to be that's not death, and maybe akin to love or hope or the thing that holds you here. That's gone, or you never had it, not even by marrying your mother, not by killing your father, not by having all those children that are your sisters and brothers as well as your sons and daughters. Citharon cures you of all that, or maybe Citharon just clarifies it. Living is just nailed to a tree, arse naked to the howling wind, and no one coming ever. And if by some miracle they do come, it really makes no difference now whether they take you with them or they leave you there, because you've become the tree and the nails and the howling wind. It's your song, your lullaby, your anthem, and I assume it's the same for everyone. Ripped from the nowhere, friendless into the strange and the cold, always having to prove something, having to be someone, for what and for whom and for why, this gale of the mind, this wind, this soul, this little time, these paltry years. Why shouldn't we marry our mothers, take the little comfort we can, because it's nowhere else to be found, if even there. Okay, so that's the boy. Do we want to have a chat, or will I read another bit?
We could have a chat.
Yeah, okay.
But if you prefer to continue.
No, that's good, yeah.
Marina, in this select extract that you have read, but it's very different, of course, to hearing the play text read aloud with your voice, and it's a kind of vocal performance, of course, interpretation. When you hear your plays being read aloud or performed vocally as well by actors, how do you feel about this?
Well, it depends on the actor and the actress, you know. If you're working with a very experienced actor or actress, they'll generally make you sound better than you are. If you're working with a younger actor or a less experienced actor, it can be a bit of a trial, because my plays are so text-based and voice training, you know, where you inflect, how you deliver a long speech. For me, always less is more. I love stillness on stage. I hate when it's too busy. I hate overacting. I hate when they emote too much. But then that's me as a writer, you know. For an actor it's different, for a director it's different. They have to make the thing move, and they have to make it visually interesting. And they have to find physical intention as well as vocal intention. But you know, for me, like the drama comes out of oral storytelling, and at its best and simplest, it is storytelling. So how that's achieved. I mean, you can tell a great actor because they do so little, but yet they have immersed themselves and inhabited the thing, and it appears effortless, but actually it's hugely technical. So, and I've worked with experienced actors and inexperienced, so I'd be always take it back. Yeah.
And in this extract that you have read, it's striking the emotional intensity throughout the interior monologue. I would say it's like a kind of stream of consciousness technique for interior monologue, the psychological depth, emotional intensity. How do you feel as a playwright when writing these lines? These are emotionally very intense. Can you detach yourself from the scene there, or what is this process like for you?
Well, they say no tears in the writer, no tears in the audience, you know. So yeah, you get you are there when you're writing it. You become the character, and it is kind of exhausting. But then it's done and it's gone from you, you know, because you're writing the next thing. And you know, it is a craft and it's a job after all. So there's a practical dimension to it. But in the moment, yes, you are immersed there. You have to imagine yourself in the body and soul of the character you're creating. And you have to love them. You have to really love them, whether they're monsters or not.
How do you start writing a play? What is the first thing for you? Is it the idea? Is it the character? Is it a single message that you want to pass on to the audience, so you develop the play considering this dimension? What is your first starting? How do you begin a play?
God, well, it's different every time. Sometimes it'll just be the name of a character. Sometimes it'll be a situation. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it will be, well, like, for example, The Boy, it was very straightforward. Mm-hmm. The brief was to do whatever I was going to do with the Sophoclean trilogy. So mm-hmm. Oedipus Rex, Oedipus a Colonus, and Antigone. Mm-hmm. So that was the brief, and it took me ages to figure out how I was going to do this. Mm-hmm. Oedipus Rex is, because it's so well known and it's so dramatic and it's a wonderful text to bounce off. Mm-hmm. Oedipus a Colonus is much more difficult because it's so static, mm-hmm. and also because it's so, there's so much repetition in it. Yeah. You know, they keep rehashing mm-hmm. Oedipus Rex and Oedipus a Colonus, mm-hmm. and then Antigone as well. Again, mm-hmm. the chorus, mm-hmm. again, they keep rehashing the whole Oedipus family story. So they were more difficult to get hold of, and kind of very, very modernist. When you think of Sophocles, actually Oedipus a Colonus, I always think Beckett got Waiting for Godot from Oedipus a Colonus, mm-hmm. because you have Oedipus blind and his daughter Antigone just wandering around the lanes of mm-hmm. towards Athens, waiting to become a god, waiting to go into the grove and become immortal. And in Beckett's Waiting for Godot, you have Didi and Gogo mm-hmm. hanging out under the tree, waiting for Godot, talking nonsense as they're wandering the lanes. Yeah. So it's different every time, the starting point. But usually it's a very long process, and there's a lot of misses. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine, the poet Mary O'Malley, said it's just like breaking rocks, you know. And you're just breaking the rock till you hit the seam, you know.
Do you find yourself revising the kind of, or the whole play that you start, for example, with the first draft, then at some point you realize that this is not developing to the direction that you imagined in the very beginning? Do you restart writing the play then from beginning, or create different versions?
Different versions. Uh-huh. Again, it depends. Sometimes you'll have a clear run and you'll get a fairly decent first draft. Sometimes it'll be a complete mess and overwritten. Mm-hmm. And then there'll be a couple of people who I would speak to and mm-hmm. talk to and just get a response from. Mm-hmm. But you generally have a fair idea yourself of what's working mm-hmm. and what's not. Mm-hmm. So I kind of have a thumb rule that I would do at least 4 drafts. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and kind of, you know, you're cutting away the fat as you're going along and getting rid of the dross and trying to let it rise, you know, what's trying to be said.
Mm-hmm. I've read somewhere that you wrote Woman in Scarecrow in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's true, in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Did you start playing?
10 days actually, in the Centre Culturel Irlandais in Paris. I just had, I had my first daughter, and I hadn't been away because I was feeding her myself, whatever, so she was 7 months, whatever, and I went off to Paris, and I actually had 2 baby bottles in my bag full of milk formula because my husband brought me to the airport and I was feeding her the bottle before, and so I had 2 bottles in the bag, and I was afraid to empty them out, so all this sour milk in the bathroom in the room I was staying in. It just became kind of talismanic. I can't pour this liquid out. So it was there in the sink in the bathroom for 2 weeks. But it was fantastic, because I don't know if you know the Centre Culturel Irlandais in Paris. It's this building that Napoleon gave to the Irish because all the priests during the revolution, they fought on his side. So he gave it as a present to the bishop or something. And it's a cultural institute in Paris on Rue des Irlandais in the Latin Quarter. And any Irish person can go and stay there, you know, given availability, whatever. But it's particularly for artists, you know, in all disciplines. So I was there, and they have this beautiful courtyard, and it was summer, so I just sat out under the trees and wrote. And there was an owl in the tree, and this owl used to come down every night and just watch me writing. It was lovely. It was actually,
That was an
yeah,
inspiration.
and the sour milk, the baby bottles with the sour milk in the bathroom. So I can't. This was my first time to leave her. Do you know? And I was, you know, you get very neurotic leaving a baby and whatever. So, but I had to do some work. So I had to write in 2 weeks because I was going straight back, and I had 2 other small children as well. So this was my pocket of time to write something. So I kind of wrote just all day and all night. And yeah.
Before we continue with there's a lot that we can ask you, Adrian. I hope we will be able to bring these about as much as possible today. But one thing that I observed your reaction when I was introducing you to our audience, this reference to the Irish Times designation as the Aeschylus of the amphitheatre. Would you like comment on that a little bit? Share your ideas with us on that interpretation, this designation. How do you receive this?
Oh. Well, I wasn't aware of it because I try not to read, or maybe I read it long ago and I forget, because I forget.
That was 2002.
Yeah, I've forgotten everything. I just can't remember anything anymore. You know, I'm at this a long time, so I get both positive and negative responses to the work. So obviously, if somebody says something nice about me, I love them. And if they say something mean, I hate them. It's very, very natural human response, I think. But and then, you know, you just kind of get on with it or whatever. And I'm not, you know, I think the world over, we always remember the negative criticism. We forget the positive, do you know? It's something to do with, I think, our, what would you call it, coming into the world with this sense of, would call it original sin. I don't know if the Viennese believe in original sin, but I'm Catholic. And we are born as a Catholic. It's drummed into you from a very young age that you are a sinner. We're all sinners down here, of course. So it feeds into that sense of trying to be better at what you're doing, trying to be a better human being, trying to be a better writer, trying to be a better everything. And of course, you fail terribly at it most of the time. So my response is, you know, sometimes you try to be wise about it and say, just don't believe anything, good or bad. But of course, that's, you know, we're human, and you're going to be affected. Of course. Yeah, yeah. So will I read from something else?
Yeah, yes, please.
I'm going to do from Girl on an Altar. So this is based on the first play of the Oresteia, one of the oldest plays in the world. Actually, Aeschylus is the oldest extant, well, in the Western canon anyways, the Persians, which Aeschylus, but the Oresteia then is trilogy. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the Oresteia, so it's Agamemnon and Clytemnestra. So Agamemnon is king of what became known as the Greeks, but it wasn't Greece then, of course. It was a whole load of disparate tribes. And he wants to go to Troy and trounce Troy into the dirt. And he wants to go as the king, as the over-king. Homer talks about there being 40 kings arrived on the beach at Troy. One more aggressive and avaricious and grasping than the next. So Agamemnon, it's put up to him by Achilles. Achilles also wants to be the over-king, and Agamemnon's not having this. And there are all sorts of theories. Anyway, in the heel of the hunt, what happens is Agamemnon sacrifices his little daughter Iphigenia for the wind to change at Aulis, so all the ships can sail to Troy. So he lures, one of the versions is he lures his wife Clytemnestra there under the premise that Iphigenia is betrothed to Achilles and she's going to marry him, and what transpires is this savage sacrifice on the shore. So I'm just going to read you, the sacrifice scene. So there are 3 characters in this. There's Agamemnon, and there's Clytemnestra, his wife, the queen, and there's Cilissa, who is Clytemnestra's serving woman, former slave, freed slave, but still Clytemnestra's woman. And it takes place at Aulis. Dawn, pink sky, sound of the sea. And I'll call out the names of who's reading. So this is Agamemnon. Atarxis, my general, lifts my daughter up to me. She turns to kiss me, a garland of gentians in her shining hair. They have her decked out in white, gold sandals on her small brown feet. I give her the reins and she whoops with delight at the speed of Aetha. And I'm thinking, I can't do this. I cannot do this. The whole camp is armed. Everyone's dander up. Achilles preening in his glittering armour. His eyes flick to my daughter, then back to me. I can hear him thinking, he's calling our bluff. He'll never go through with it. Won't I, you mortal upstart? Won't I indeed? I'll show you what the King of Kings is made of. I'll show you what must be given away. I'm the one leading this army to Troy's pink walls if I have to kill you all to do it. Zeus, Agamemnon to you, you marauding parvenu. Zeus, Agamemnon from the house of Pelops. Zeus, Atrides, Agamemnon, great-grandson of Helios. The sun god's blood runs in my veins, veins of gold, you treacherous blue blood runt. This is Clytemnestra. I'm shaken out of sleep, Cilicia hissing in my ear. Cilicia, they've taken her, and beyond in the kitchens they're putting around that there's to be no wedding, but some unspeakable offering on the altar below at the shore. Clytemnestra, taken who? Cilicia, Iphigenia. She went by on her father's horse at dawn. Clytemnestra, she's with her father, she's safe. Cilicia, the sacrificial fires are lit, priests dancing across the sand with their drums. She's standing on the altar, her dress in tatters. Clytemnestra, what are you saying? Where are the babies? Cilicia, come now. Clytemnestra, stop your ranting, woman. Cilicia, no, listen. The oracle, the gods, Artemis slighted, Zeus angry, the wind all wrong, Troy a vanishing dream. Iphigenia, they want her. Clytemnestra, want her for what? Cilicia, she's the sacrifice. She leaps over me and is out the flap, tearing along the cliff, screaming like a banshee. I tear after her, our feet in ribbons as we pound the shale, haul ourselves down the slope, all the women suddenly behind us, and we're roaring, shoving, tripping, sliding down the dunes as she flies ahead in her nightdress. Clytemnestra, the beach thick with all the tribes, armour gleaming, hands on the hilts of their swords, the sky blackening, a glut around the altar, 3 massive boulders, the men parting like wind in barley as we sighed through them, and then, oh, Cilicia, he's standing on the altar, mask on, obsidian knife in his hand, Iphigenia raised to the skies in his right arm, Clytemnestra, blood on the stones, his arms, her throat. Cilicia, she takes a flying leap at the altar, manages to scale the jagged stone, fury propelling her, wrestles the child from Agamemnon with such force he falls backwards as she rains kisses like blows on the dying child, trying to shake the life back into her, stanch the river of blood flowing from her neck over her arms, her face and her mouth, clinging to the girl they've stripped to the waist. And the high priest steps forward, pounding his drum, berating her in his high falsetto. Shame on you, woman, botching the god's sacrifice. Shame on you, Clytemnestra. Shame on me. You have stolen my child, butchered her like a beast of the field. Shame on me, shame on you, you band of prancing gorillas. May you never reach Troy, and if by some trick of fate you do, may you never return. May you die there howling, a banquet for the crow, the rat, the wild dog, no one to mourn you, none to speak your memory, except with hate and scorn, your own mothers cursing you, you savage guests of time. Cilicia, her voice low, lethal, the men shifting, coughing, eyes full of fear. Do they actually expect a blessing for this carnage? Clytemnestra, Iphigenia, dying in my arms. Black clouds rolling across the silver sea, wind rising, rain spattering, and then the heavens opening. Iphigenia booking, choking, Agamemnon on his knees, struggling to get his mask off, her necklace in his hand. And this is Agamemnon. Go, take her with you before I have to do it all over again. Go before I have to slit your throat too. She flies off the altar, never letting the child from her grip. Her women close in as they move through the men who shove and stumble to back out of her way, afraid of her and the procession of keening women. Achilles looks at me, the guarded eyes that still won't give quarter, but he knows who's king round here now. There'll be no more trouble, no swaggering wide boys scheming for my throne. He watches as the elite come, bow, kiss my feet, all the tribes with their trumped up little under-kings. I accept the tributes, the honeyed lies, the deference without taking my eyes off him. He's the last to come forward, of course he is, and only because he can't do otherwise. Everyone watching, waiting, can see him calculating. Can he still swing it his way? The fury he can't contain, prancing, tossing the hair. But he comes finally, kneels like the rest of them, kisses my blood-stained feet, spits out the hollow words, Zeus, Agamemnon. That's right, I say, as I grip his hand and raise him in the accustomed manner. That's right, and don't you forget it. And he snorts and swaggers off, nostrils flaring. And I know I'm no god incarnate, but I'm the closest he'll ever come to one. Old Colchis comes forward with his sagging ditties, offering me the cup of sacrificial blood to drink, my daughter's blood. I knock it from his hand and grab him by the throat. Atarxis is there in a flash, separating us, the whole camp gasping. Cool it, Atarxis says. No more oracles, I say. No more of your Pythian riddles that can be read 1,000 ways, you demented old woman. I only read the signs, Colchis mumbles, the sick eyes leaking down the ravines of his face. And what do the signs say now? What do your gods say? What's the gossip from Delphi, and it better be good? The wind, he whines. What about the wind? It's here, he drawls. The wind, I say. The wind was here yesterday. The wind is here today, and the wind will be here tomorrow, but my daughter will never be here again. Sing that on your fucking altar. To the ships, I shout, raising my sword, slapping on the golden mask. The oracle has spoken. Our sacrifice has been accepted and deemed fitting. Look at this rain, hear the wind rising. The signs are for victory. The men roar in relief. They love this sort of crap, so I milk it, do the Bacchic dance, sing myself hoarse, stomp and hoof and snort like a stallion as the men go wild and weep and fall to their knees. Zeus, Agamemnon, they scream, beating their fists in the air and their chests, tearing at their hair like a bunch of owl ones at a funeral. In the distance, along the cliff, I see the lonely procession, my wife, my dead child, making their way to the women's tents, and I don't know how I'll ever make it right with her again. To the ships, I say, and the exodus for Troy finally begins. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So it's from the with this selected extractors, you are going out again an adaptation of Greek mythology, retelling of it. I would like to talk a little bit about your use of Greek mythology. You must have been asked this question so many times, and much has been written on your use of mythology, Greek mythology in your plays. There is no definitive version of a Greek myth, I understand. When you work with those Greek myths for your plays, do you see yourself experiencing some sort of change in your perspective when you are interpreting or retelling these myths? Do you have different versions of the same mythological story in your storytelling?
Well, obviously you read around, and then you read so much and it all becomes like a salad, and I forget. It's why I'll never be an academic, because I can never remember my sources, and what sticks with you is usually a nugget of some sort that gives you a point of entry to begin to reimagine the character. So the great thing about the about mythologies, there are all the different versions, so you can take what you need. Like, for example, in Clytemnestra, I left out the fact that, you know, Clytemnestra was married before. She was married to Agamemnon, and I forget the name. I forget the name of the first husband. But Agamemnon was meant to have killed her child by the first husband, you know, which is very often they did this in royal houses, you know, because there was competition and inheritance and all of that, and they want their blood, like lions, you know, they just kill the cubs if they take over the lioness. It's basically like that. But I decided to leave that out because I thought it would, it wasn't going to add anything to the way I wanted to tell it. But what I did do is I brought in another child. So Aegisthus, so Clytemnestra has an affair with Agamemnon's cousin while he's off in Troy, and so she has children with him. So I brought that child in, and I allowed that child to die. So that was my way of dealing with that, you know. For example, then in The Boy, dealing with the Oedipus trilogy. So Sophocles has left out the whole reason for the curse on Oedipus is because Laius, his father, stole a boy, Chrysippus, and raped a boy, and then refused to give him back and refused to observe the laws of hospitality. So the gods curse him then, say if you marry, don't marry, if you marry, you will have a son and that son will kill you. And Laius goes ahead, marries, has the son, and then, but I brought that in because I thought that was really important because it's somehow significant, more significant these days. You know, there was a whole older man, you know, young boy culture going on in Greece at the time, and apparently one of the things I read was that it was of epidemic proportions. And one of the points, one of Sophocles' maybe raison d'etre for you know, picking particularly the Oedipus myth was somehow in response to that conversation, debate going on at the time. You know, if you look circa 2000, you know, 500 BC or whatever, women were pretty much for childbearing, and the man's life was outside the home. You know, he was head of the home, he owned his children, the woman didn't own her children. But her life was curtailed to kind of childbearing, running the home. Whereas the man's life was huge. He was the warrior, he was the orator, he was this. And then the most important relationship was probably with the younger man, who he would educate as well and bring on. And that younger man in turn would take another boy. So there was all this going on. But I thought it was interesting to bring that in just because Sophocles had left it out, you know. So the origin of the curse. Yeah, so little things like that you play around, but that's the wonderful thing, you can take what you need. Yeah.
What I've observed when I know this is not the particular or except type of description, and you don't like this description, I know this being described or introduced as a female playwright rather than a playwright is how I should be introduced. So I agree with you.
Thank you for not calling me a female playwright.
No, I was not good enough, no. When a Greek mythological story is reinterpreted or used as a work material by a female dramatist, among the critics there is very often this tendency to interpret this as a way of challenging patriarchy, giving voice to the silencing of women. So there's a feminist meaning searched in this kind of approach to myth, if it is dealt with by a female writer. How do you see your position in this sense when you use mythology, these Greek myths in your plays? Do you think that you have this attempt, you want to indeed give voice to those silenced women, or women who have been exploited, women who could not make themselves present? Do you have such a feminist concern, or do you think at large it's about the human condition in general?
Well, nothing as organised as that, you know. you know, there's commentary and then there's the writing of the play itself, and I've no control over the commentary. But when I'm writing it, I like to think I have the whole canvas, you know. And I think one of or a lot of the commentary around women writing is you can have that bit of the canvas, but actually the men, we have the whole canvas. And not everyone, of course, but there is that. And it's not just coming from male criticism, but also female criticism. And I understand why, because we are still behind in the things we need to achieve. You know, we don't have parity. The world, we are part of the patriarchal procession. And as a good friend of mine says, patriarchy is the only food on the table. Eat it or starve. So we're all eating and we're trying to think which bits of it can we eat, or can we still swallow, and which bits are just beyond our capacity to digest now. So there's all that conversation going on. But when I'm writing, it's a lot simpler. I'm just thinking of my characters, and I'm thinking of the story. And then however it's interpreted, I mean, I've read some interpretations of my work and I just can't believe.
The first scholars tend to overinterpret.
Yeah, I think, God, I sound really intelligent.
The meaning that you did not think at all.
Not in the slightest. Never occurred to me. Never. Which is the way, probably is the way it should be, you know, because, you know, if you're a polemicist, that is one type of writing and a very valid type of writing. I am not a polemicist. I don't have enough knowledge to be a polemicist.
Would you describe yourself as a political writer, politically oriented writer?
Well, only in the sense that everything is political. Two people talk, it's political. Everything is political and everything matters. But no, and to be honest, I try to avoid labels, you know. I just feel I'm boxed in, and I feel it's someone trying to keep me in a certain place, and I don't like that. It just interferes with my
storytelling itself.
Yeah, it interferes with my imagination and my freedom. And of course, there are always the voices. We all have the internal policeman going on, you know, or the sergeant major, or whatever you want to call him, the general. We all have our little generals inside, but you try and silence them as much as possible.
Regarding your use of mythology in your plays, we are talking about this also with colleagues and among our students as well. There was a discussion in our class 2 weeks ago. The younger generation, particularly, I'm not sure about our students, so can't give this as a piece of concrete information, but this is what I assume. They are not exposed to mythology, Greek mythology, are they? We don't have any course that, and it is only through their own interest, I think, but if they know anything about those Greek mythological stories. And those of you who are informed, I suppose that your exposure to mythology these days is much more via computer games, video games, isn't it? So when you think about your use of mythology as such, in the example of younger generation of readers, and also in general readers who may not be informed of these stories, how do you expect your plays to be interpreted, understood? Do you expect them to be informed of these mythological stories before they read these plays or see them on stage?
I think if they do, it'll be a richer experience, but I don't think it should be contingent upon them being fluent in whatever mythology it is. I think the play should work standalone. But I think if you are versed, I think you're going to have a better time. You know. But you know, it's a play. It's live performance. It's witnessed by the collective, and that's one of the wonderful things I think about the theatre. You know, we're all watching something together, and you know, they talk about the way a great performer can control an audience, but a great audience can control a performance. You know, it's very live. It's very give and take, and actors feed off the energy they're getting from the audience or not. Some they'll say, oh, that was a hard audience, or that was a beautiful audience, or you know, that was a really giving audience, or that audience never stopped laughing in the wrong places, or you know, etc., etc. So it's a very kind of mysterious thing, and it should. I think it should. The more we read, the more educated we are. I think the richer and more textured our experiences are. But we don't, I mean, at 20, which is probably the age of some of the students here, you know, I didn't know that much either, do you know? 40 years later, I know a bit. I've forgotten an awful lot of it as well, but, and there's something fantastic about being young and ambitious, I think, do you know? And gradually finding your voice. If any of you are interested in writing or writing for the theatre or fiction or poetry, whatever, you don't have to know everything. We never know everything. That's the thing about knowledge, it's endless. And
it's a journey of discovery.
Completely, and rediscovery, and then discovering again. And all of these wonderful writers who've gone before us, they're there to help us. And the more you read, the better the writer you're going to be. That's the only thing I would say. If you want to be a writer, just read. Just read. And read like a writer, not lazy reading. You know, notice things. Notice where a paragraph stops. Notice a point of entry, a point of exit. Notice what's physically happening, while who's saying what to whoever. So all these technical things that they'll become second nature to you the more you read.
Again, in Greek myths, when we think about the classical tragedies, there we see that Greek myth or these mythological stories are part of the play, or they might make up the bulk of the play, to a great extent with the purpose of discussing some moral law, or teaching some moral law, introduce some betterment for human behavior, how to find the right way. And there are noble figures, noble aristocracy, kings, queens. But the striking thing in your place is that you bring together the very balanced combination of those ancient classical stories with contemporary times, for audience of contemporary times, and realism in them. So this is, and the language that your characters speak, this is, I find, very close to common everyday speech, but there's some lofty touch in the language as well, in the way the whole prosaic structure develops in the language. Do you have also an attempt towards establishing a kind of elevated language in writing the lines, dialogues for your characters in the place where you have, again, a classical tragedy format and mythological stories?
Yeah, well, I mean, I love language, obviously, and I love the music of it. So what I aim for is precision and rhythm. Rhythm is paramount for a writer. So when I'm writing, I read everything out loud. So my ear will catch what my eye will miss. I don't know if you know this, but nobody read silently until Chaucer. You know, he was apparently probably not the first, but recorded Chaucer. They used to laugh at Chaucer, 13th century English poet, the Canterbury Tales. I don't know if you've studied that yet, but they'd laugh at him because you come into a room and he'd be in the corner reading quietly to himself, just kind of mouthing the words. But you know, before the printing press, people would gather to hear a book. You know, there'd be one book, so there'd be 500 people, and the book would be read out. And there'd be it was like going to the movies now. You know, going to see Barbie or whatever. You know, 500 people would gather to hear a book. So everything was read out loud. Everything, and it goes back to the ancient tradition. We're all storytellers. What we do is we're telling the story of our lives. We're talking out our lives day in, day out. So what I'm after is precision. Of course I love language, I love metaphor, but I hate purple prose. So it's trying to get the balance of how such a character sounds, and trying to get the nuance in. And then because I come from Ireland, what we speak in Ireland is Hiberno English. We don't speak the Queen's English or the King's English now. We speak Hiberno English, which is English with the remnants of Irish still bubbling underneath the surface. So very often we will invert our sentences, or we'll invert our verb or adjective. And Irish being a language of metaphor, there's still something in the hard wiring in us, I think. I think it's no accident that that there are a lot of great Irish writers, you know, because I think it's helped by the fact that somewhere in the DNA of the race, that ancient thing is there, and it comes through in the way we speak English. Frank McGuinness, who's another Irish playwright, and he says our revenge, you know, for the 800 years of colonization, our revenge is that we will speak the language more beautifully than them. So I don't know. I don't know how successful we have been in that, because there are wonderful English writers as well, but it's a very different type of English.
Yeah.
There's a rhythm, there's a very particular rhythm to Hiberno English.
Like the style in John Millington Synge's plays as well.
Yeah.
The rhythm that's a bit constructed as well.
That's so heightened.
That's, very heightened.
That's really heightened,
in
yeah.
your plays, it is the natural rhythm, natural flow, as it is actually spoken in the Midlands, for example.
Yeah.
Hiberno English.
And I grew up, so where I grew up, you know, so Ethna is here and she's from Donegal, so there's a real musicality and up and a down. Where I come from, it's really flat. So they all talk like that all the time. And they don't intonate anything, and you wouldn't even know they were talking half the time.
Thank you for the performance.
Yeah, so you know, there's that. I mean, that's yeah, and then of course it's all changing now because they all go to university and you know, and all that. But when I was growing, they all talk like that. And I was going down the road, and who would you think you met? And your man, and he said it's to me, and I said that to him. And that's, you know, just real flat, and they won't pronounce a T if they can help it. So. Or a TH if they can help it. So instead of this, that, these, and those, would be this, that, these, and those. Instead of that, it would be that. Yeah. Yeah. Instead of hot, it would be ha. So anywhere they can switch out a H for a T, they will.
That's very interesting for us. Students are interested in
Your linguistics, yeah. And you have a linguistics professor here who could probably give us hours on this. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Marina, thank you very much. Then 3 weeks ago, you know, Patrick Lonergan was here, and he also discussed your play, The Boy, and in reference to your plays, he made a comment here, said, we were talking about, again, the use of mythology, and his commentary was that your characters were bound by fate, but your opinion is probably different about this. Would you agree with this interpretation?
What, that my characters are bound by fate?
There's always, with mythologies, there's always the struggle, fighting against destiny, fate, the attempt to change things, reverse the written
pattern,
pattern for them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's such an interesting, it's the big question for all of us, isn't it? Free will or destiny? Universe of design or universe of chaos.
Yeah.
I don't know where I stand on that, where my characters stand on that, but I also think it's very interesting in the familial pattern too. You know, how we become like our parents, how our children become like us. You know, that kind of repetition and that cycle, and you see it in families where let's say there are tragedies or difficulties or problems. You see the repetition going down the generations, and then how do you break that pattern? So I find it fascinating on a mythological level, but I also find it really interesting on a psychological and maybe psychoanalytical level.
Yes.
And you know, just the you know, how much is learned behaviour and how much do we come with? You know, do we come with the pattern, or can the pattern be altered? I've no answers in that one, but I find that so interesting. I would love to think it is a universe of absolute design, but with a little free will for myself. But that there is design, that there is some mysterious force that set the whole thing rolling. But then, and then it depends on the mood I'm in. Then I just think, how can that be chaos? But then I think you can argue back to the Big Bang Theory, but you can't argue past that. There we're in the realm of mystery. All these dimensions, apparently there are 11 dimensions, or 13, I think, keeps growing. They can prove mathematically, but we just have not the capacity to imagine what they are. And the senses, space and time, and all this kind of stuff. So I find all of that fascinating. And then going back to the very Catholic upbringing I had, the whole idea of mystery and our relationship with mystery, whatever you want to call it, religion, faith, mystery, or just things that cannot be explained rationally. How we feel. We're a species, I think, who we're very sensory. We feel everything first, and then we struggle to put language on it. And the whole culture since the age of enlightenment has to be try and switch that around and say, no, you're a rational creature. You should be able to think this through. But in actual fact, we are of the earth. We've come out of the sea. We, you know, we came out in our fins and our whatever and climbed trees, and language was probably not was probably one of the last things. And reason, with it reason. So are we done, or will I read? Is there time?
Continue with the
What time is it?
It's 10 to 1.
So what time are we meant to finish it? Is everybody sick? Are you sick of me? Okay, well, I do one more. Okay. We'll finish up with it. Okay. So this is just to change it up a little bit. This is from Woman and Scarecrow, and it's about a woman with 8 children who's dying far too young. And there's the husband is called Him, and he's a very loving but very faithless husband. And Scarecrow, so Woman and Scarecrow, people ask me who Scarecrow is. So Scarecrow is kind of that inner voice that we all have, or the several inner voices we all have going along. So you're saying one thing, you're thinking another, and you're dreaming another, and you're et cetera, et cetera. So Scarecrow is that. So what you need, this is the final scene. So what you need to know is Scarecrow, the thing in the wardrobe is the thing that woman has been terrified of all her life. And Scarecrow transforms into this thing in the wardrobe. I don't know, when you were kids, I was terrified of what was in the wardrobe and what was under the bed. So it's like that. So the woman is terrified of this thing in the wardrobe that she imagines. So the Scarecrow transforms into that, having been her kind of doppelganger or the voice inside her. So Him, your feet are ice, woman, then it must be nearly over. Him, will I bring in the children? Woman, they're gone, they're mostly gone. Him, it's all right, is there anything? Woman, Scarecrow, go after Scarecrow, bring her back. Him, some champagne. You said once you'd like to drink champagne at the end. Woman, did I? Him, I have a bottle in the fridge. Woman, am I capable of a glass, do you think? Him, yes, let's have champagne. Woman, and bring the dish glasses, not the fluted ones. Him, where would they be? Woman, I don't know, they used to be. Oh, Scarecrow, I can't remember my own kitchen. Him, I'll find them. Wait now, wait easy. I'll be back in a sec. And exit him, woman lies there. Enter the thing in the wardrobe. Regal, terrifying, one black wing, cobalt beak, clawed feet, taloned fingers. It is Scarecrow transformed. She stands there looking at woman, shakes itself down. Woman stares at it. Woman, Scarecrow, I'm begging you. He's here. I can't do this on my own. Scarecrow, you don't have to, my dear. Woman, Scarecrow, is that you? But I thought, Scarecrow, that I was your slave, that you were in charge. Not so, not so. I've a few forms to fill out, so just bear with me a second. She plucks a feather from her wing, takes out parchment, unrolls it. So you're nearly there, exciting, isn't it? Woman, you swore you would see me out. Scarecrow, and I will. Now I need ink. Scarecrow takes woman's hand and she pierces the vein in her wrist and a fountain of blood shoots out. Scarecrow dips the quill into woman's wrist, a cry of pain from woman. I know, my chicken, I know, it is never easy becoming the past tense. Okay, it says here you had brains to burn. Woman, then I must have burnt them. Scarecrow, don't do this to me. Scarecrow, I have no choice. You think I want to do this. It's out of my control. Next question, why did you stop seeking? Woman, that's the big one, isn't it? Scarecrow, no time now except for the big ones. You'll answer the question, please. The paperwork must be in order. Woman, why did I stop seeking? I didn't know what to look for, and I was afraid what I would find. Scarecrow, yeah, that's the usual excuse we get. And love, why did you not flee when love had flown? Woman, but it hasn't flown. Scarecrow, it says here it has flown. Woman, it hasn't, he's here. Scarecrow, where? Woman, he's getting me champagne. Anyway, how could I leave my children? Scarecrow, you're leaving them now. Woman, this is a different leaving. Scarecrow, it certainly is. We're not talking a few years here. We're talking never, never. We're talking the 5 nevers and the 4 howls. Woman, so are you saying I could have turned up at the lover's door with the 8 of them? Scarecrow, I'm saying exactly that. Woman, with what? How? For starters, it would have taken 2 car journeys. I would have had to arrive twice, and to arrive twice at the lover's door is worse than not arriving at all. Give me some credit for timing. These are stupid questions. Who designed this questionnaire? Scarecrow, you did. Woman, will all of this be used against me? Scarecrow, it will be used. And the children, admitted, they were your shield to beat the world away. Woman, yes, they were. Scarecrow, you hid behind the nappies and the bottles. Woman, the mountainous bellies and the cut knees, the broken arms, the temperatures, the uniforms, the football, the music, the washing machine, the 3 square meals. Yes, I hid behind it all. Yes, I used them. They were my little soldiers. I was the fortress, and how they protected me from terrors imagined and terrors real, my soothers, my buffers to fortune. And I'm sure I've damaged them in some vital, irreparable way, but I have also loved them with a hopeless, enchanted love. Scarecrow, dipping quill into woman's wrist. This well is dry. I'm sorry, I have to do this. She pierces woman's neck and a big fountain of blood shoots out. Woman, Scarecrow, don't, please don't. Scarecrow, we can't go back now. And if you could take a thought with you, what would it be? Woman, what would it be? That I've never felt at home here. Scarecrow, very few do. Woman, we don't belong here. There must be another earth. And yet there was a moment when I thought it might be possible here. A moment so elusive it's hardly worth mentioning. An ordinary day with the ordinary sun of a late Indian summer shining on the grass as I sat in the car waiting to collect the children from school. Ruzalka on the radio, her song to the moon. Ruzalka pouring her heart out to the moon, her love for the prince. Make me human, she sings. Make me human so I can have him. And something about the alignment of sun and wind and song on this most ordinary of afternoons stays with me. Though what it means is beyond me, and what I felt is forgotten now. But the bare facts, me, the sun, the shivering grass, Ruzalka's singing to the moon. And I wonder, is this not the prayer each of us whispers when we pause to consider? Make me human, and then divine. And I wonder, is it for these elusive prayers we are here, these half sentences that vanish into the ether almost before we can utter them? Living is almost nothing, and we brave little mortals investing so much in it. Scarecrow, you're determined to go with romance on your lips. Woman, I know as well as the next that the arc of our time here bends to tragedy. How can it be otherwise when we think where we are going? But we must mark those moments, those passionate moments, however small. I looked up passionate in the dictionary once because I thought I had never known it. And do you know what passion means? Scarecrow comes from the Latin pati, to suffer. Woman, well, I said to myself, if that's the definition of passion, then I have known passion. More, I have lived a passionate life. Yes, I have lived passionately, unbeknownst to myself. Here it lay on my doorstep, and I all the time looking out for it. Scarecrow finishes writing, rolls up parchment, puts it into a bag of scrolls hanging from her waist. Scarecrow, that's that out of the way. I'm afraid it's time. Woman, but I'm not ready. Scarecrow, it's time to go. Woman, Scarecrow, please, my children. Scarecrow, I know, but don't fight me. Please, you won't win this time. Woman, just hold on till he comes back. Scarecrow, you want him to watch you die? Woman, yes. He was the closest I came to the thing itself. I think I've stopped breathing. Scarecrow, yes, it's over. Woman, the next breath isn't coming. Scarecrow, and won't ever. Okay.
Thank you very much, Marina. When I think about this play and the previous extracts, the selected extracts that you have read, the themes, such as with the boy, for example, we heard in the interpretation, theme of incest, rage, violence, and in this play, for example, family disintegration, grief over loss or missed opportunities, sadness, the legacy of the past maybe again. What is it that draws you to these themes?
Well, they're all our lives, aren't they? Kind of happens to us all if you live long enough. Also, you know, it's the drama. Drama is conflict. I think I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I tried to write a happy play once. It was a disaster. It was terrible.
Writing this time, so classical tragedies, classical comedies, Aristophanes, Menander, you would.
Yeah, and I've been asked down the years to write a comedy, and I panic when anybody says write a comedy. Because if I try to be funny, I fall flat on my face. But if I forget about trying to be funny, the humor, I think if you're writing freely and naturally, the humor will come. But then I'm told I have a very bizarre sense of humor. Things I find hilarious, nobody else does, you know? And vice versa. Things, obviously, our sense of humor is very particular. But the drama, but then, you know, life is tragic. Yeah. In the like the romantic sense of the word, with a capital R. So if you live fully, you live a big life. You've the whole circus going with you. And depending, you know, if you're fortunate to live a long life, so many things are going to happen to you. So you know, and as a writer, you access those things. So I don't know how to.
I think in your tragedies as well, there's actually at a moment unexpected on the side of the reader, there's some humorous tone. There's either sarcastic remark, there's a humorous tone. I don't think that your plays are without any sense of humor, even when writing tragedies. Yeah. And this is so obvious in The Boy as well.
Good. Well, I'm glad you think so, because
it makes the reader smile at some point when you don't expect this at all.
Yeah.
In the middle of a scene of tragedy, violence, or talking about these themes that are related to incest, for example, as in the Oedipus Rex example too. Something makes you smile. There's a very good sense of humor.
Good. Well, you know, I think we can be too tough on our genres, you know. You're a tragic writer, you're a comedic writer, and the truth is, like, really good writing contains a bit of everything, you know. It's kind of a mix and gather 'em. So, and I don't like to be defined, and, you know, I would never consider myself, you know, if someone said, oh, she writes tragedies, okay, some of my plays are may be defined as tragic, but what I see, but what I'm doing is just writing about people and what it is to be alive in time, you know, for a very, very short time. And it's quite simple, actually. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Marina.